Hi, everybody. We are back for another weekly edition of our interview with Dr. David Schwartz, Director of the Center for Gaming Research at UNLV. Dr. Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you again for being here. Now, you are a high volume writer. It's impressive. You're putting out 2 articles a week for Forbes, and what we've been doing the last couple of weeks, and I enjoy this format, is we just kind of talk about your articles and use those as kind of a way to open up a conversation and learn about new topics. So why don't we start with the YouTube article? You dove back in because you went 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. You talked about kind of like a surface level YouTube slot channels 101. Now you dove a little bit deeper. Tell me about what this second article was about.
Right. So the first article was really based around this controversy where YouTube had taken down 2 of the big channels, BC Slots, Brian Christopher's channel, and the Big Jackpot, which is Raja. So YouTube had taken down these 2 big channels, and that was kind of the big story. And then they kind of mysteriously brought it back. So it's kind of was just about a little bit to tell people, hey, here's what's happening. This is what it is. And then a little bit about, well, here's the controversy. And it was kind of hard to write about that because I'm only getting one side of the story because YouTube doesn't really talk about this stuff. So basically, let's say you've been doing this for 2 years, you post your slot videos, do live streams, and all of a sudden YouTube says we are striking this down because it violates, stuff about violence and bomb making and other stuff like that, which is kind of, well, I guess Big Jackpot has the boom catchphrase. So I guess that's kind of, maybe that's what they mean. I don't know.
It is kind of ironic, actually. It's like YouTube is its own little slot machine, right? You have no idea when it's going to hit, and all of a sudden, like, oh, crap. It's like a reverse slot machine. They just strike you down for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the point I got at in the article I did today, in the post I did today, which is that it's a lot like, doing this thing, trying to become a YouTube personality for slot machines or anything is kind of like playing a slot machine where you don't know what's going on. And, I suspect it might not always be great because they do have a lot of control. A couple of the channels weren't monetized for about 2 weeks, and then they just got remonetized, so good for them. But it's really, you're putting a lot of work into it, and you don't really control your own content, which is kind of scary.
Right. So let's get into the article, because I did see that you brought up a new channel, not nearly as big as Brian Christopher or the Big Jackpot, but they've had their own viral hit, and you kind of got into what you think makes a channel kind of hit a tipping point where they start to spread. So what did you see in there?
It was kind of fun. So I heard from a guy named Moran, him and his wife, who goes by Lady Luck, they do these videos together. They usually play at Win and Encore. And I just thought it was kind of interesting to follow them because they have about 1/10 as many followers as the bigger guys do. So it's kind of like, hey, here's people kind of on the upward swing. They, did get this video of this Rio Dreams jackpot, $18,000 hand pay that has over 1 million hits. And it kind of puts it all in perspective where, I've been writing for about 20 years now. And a video of somebody winning a jackpot, not even a huge jackpot by casino standards, if you work in a casino, $18,000 hand pay, it's not like this is going to change. You're not going to call the president at home and wake him up like, wow, we just had a hand pay. So it's big, but not by casino standards. This video has gotten exponentially more attention than anything I've ever written, any books, anything like that. It's kind of humbling.
Well, you know what? We got to start videotaping you playing the slots on the July 30th cruise on the Meetup at Sea. We are going to launch your Dr. Dave slot channel.
Yeah. Or I was thinking maybe like a channel of me like walking down the bank of slots and looking at each one kind of studiously and then walking on. I don't know, like, maybe I should play this one. No, I'll go to the next one. Maybe I should play this one. No, I'll go to the next one. There's something kind of funny like that, just to make it a little different. Because I don't think I have quite the bankroll of some of these other folks to cycle that money through. Because you got to pay a lot to get those big hand pays.
Got it. So we'll do Dr. Dave Ponders playing slots
or
will be your
something. Or I
channel.
was even thinking of doing a Twitch stream of me playing Civilization on King difficulty, which isn't that great. It's about halfway up the ladder. Being
Okay.
totally mediocre, totally mediocre.
I
But yeah, I
think
was thinking about doing a Twitch stream or something, or doing another Fallout New Vegas playthrough if I get that game to be stable. Lots of stability problems with my install of that.
okay. All right. So we've got one when we launch your YouTube channel, we've got a few things lined up already. I do like the idea of like, should I play this? No. Like, watch Dr. Dave think about playing Buffalo this week.
Yeah.
Um,
Nah,
okay.
not feeling it. Let's try something new. Let's try
Yeah.
something different. Yeah, that would be funny.
Yeah. May not get a million views, but all right. So you talked about, so obviously, based on that, getting a huge jackpot, ideally on a popular game, is going to get views. It's going to go viral. You mentioned that the personality of the person is pretty key in building the channel. What? Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on that?
Looking at a lot of these, I think that they have to be really relatable and likable, but more important than being likable is being relatable, where people can look at them and say, "Yeah, that could be me," And judging from a lot of the comments, that seems to be what people think when they're watching the videos. Like, "Wow, I could do that. It's so cool to see you doing this," and they kind of feel like this could be them. And I guess it could because there's no skill involved with slots. It's all chance.
It, and I totally agree because some have more cursing than others. Some are
Yeah.
nicer. Some are drinking a lot. So I mean, everybody that plays, I mean, they may fit in one of those buckets, and they like watching people that remind them of themselves or remind them of their best friend or their mom or whoever. So yeah, that makes sense. The personality, I think, I'm with you. It makes a huge impact on what videos take off. Live stream. So tell me about live stream versus a non-live stream YouTube video.
That's a whole other thing. So in the live streams, basically, they're streaming it live. That's much more of a communal thing. And you can see they have the chats. A lot of the chats are archived, so you can see the chats as they're happening. There's a lot of people watching these. So people really get into it for the communal thing where, maybe you can't go to the casino, you can't play the slot machine, you don't have the money, but you can watch someone else do it. And I guess people like that because you've got videos that are over an hour long of somebody playing a slot machine. And if you look at the chat logs, I mean, there's people watching them, there's people sending them money via super chat while they're doing it. So it's definitely something that people like watching.
Yeah, that super chat is pretty crazy because I did tune in. I tuned in to I think it was Brian Christopher actually when it was like right after his channel went live again. He hit a pretty big jackpot on a live stream. It's like a 10K jackpot. But I remember watching leading up to the jackpot, and it was like, all right, oh David, $10 super chat, thank you. Okay, $2 super chat. Yeah, like it was every 5-10 seconds was like a couple dollars, $5, $10, $20 super chats. I need to do that for our podcast. We need to make this live and start.
Yeah. I was telling one of my students, like, I think I should do this for my online classes, just do a live stream and have people send money if
Yeah.
lecturing's good, and like, hey, and I, can tell the story about Andrew Jackson and John Calhoun and the going around the toasts, Liberty, Union next door, Liberty the most dear, and then they're like ready to throw down. I think that would get a nice donation in the super chat. So it'd be kind of cool. It's just an interesting model you could change, do a lot of stuff. I think you could really do instruction that way, and that's how you would get paid.
Yeah, I think in our interviews, at least I can get my mom to give us a super chat or two. I bet, like, even if no one else will. Awesome. Okay, so live streaming. That I agree. I think that's like a trend. It gets kind of like live sports, right? I'd rather watch the World Cup live than come home tonight and watch a recorded version of it. So
Did you hear that thing that the whatever Mexico City Seismological Institute recorded an artificial earthquake when Mexico scored a goal in their game because literally so many people in Mexico City were jumping up and down because they were excited. It registered as a minor artificial earthquake. I mean, that's kind of the same thing where it's like you can feel that energy and you can you're with other people doing it. I think that same kind of communal appeal is big for the group chat stuff.
totally agree. And you just gave me an idea for like the next rock movie, like World Cup Mageddon. where it's like everyone's jumping, it creates an earthquake, and a dam breaks, and then he's got to come
Yeah,
save everybody.
that would be cool.
Yeah. By the way, we are, if, in case anybody's wondering, URComped is firmly behind Brazil in the World Cup. My wife's from Brazil. My in-laws are in town. We watched yesterday. It was kind of disappointing. It was a draw against Switzerland, but yeah, we were all decked in yellow. World Cup all the way. And by the way, happy belated Father's Day, Dr.
Oh,
Dave.
likewise. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, sir. So speaking of communal experiences, the second article you touched on, or you talked about, was about how the Vegas Golden Knights have impacted Las Vegas. Tell me, walk us through the article and what you learned.
So anyway, I wanted to write something about the Vegas Golden Knights just because it's such a huge thing. A lot of the angles have already been covered, so I'm not going to write about the attendance or obviously the kind of sports journalist type stuff. It's not going to be able to do that. But I figured I would talk a little bit about how it's affected the community, and it's really interesting. It comes down to they're really doing a lot with youth hockey and just changing the way people approach the game of hockey, where they're literally making hockey fans out of people, where people who would not have cared at all what hockey was, didn't know what an offsides penalty was, now are really into the games, going to the games, watching them on TV. And kids are playing hockey now, or it didn't used to be a really big thing in Vegas. Now it is. So a lot of kids are playing hockey. So maybe in 5 or 10 years, we're going to have draft picks coming out of Vegas and going into the NHL.
Very cool, because Dallas is kind of a similar story. I mean, the Dallas Stars, I don't know off the top of my head how old the franchise is. I feel like it's from the mid-'90s, but they experienced success pretty early on. They won a Stanley Cup right around 99, I think. But they had a great team, and it catapulted, or it sparked a youth hockey renaissance. Or I shouldn't say renaissance, because renaissance means like a rebirth or something, right? So this is like the start of youth hockey in Dallas. And now they've had, as you mentioned, some really high draft picks come out of Dallas. They've got traveling teams from Dallas that are, can compete with the teams from Canada or from the north of the U.S. So it's really high quality youth hockey here. And hopefully Las Vegas has a similar trajectory as Dallas.
Yeah, I hope so. And, they specifically looked at Dallas and some other teams that have been successful, Anaheim, Tampa Bay, some other Sun Belt teams that were successful, and they specifically try to model it after that. So it's pretty cool. I know cynical people would say, well, it's just because they won, but I think it's something deeper than that. And, I didn't even really get into the whole stuff about for opening night of the home opener for the season and the whole, October 1st shooting stuff. So I didn't even get into that. But that's another huge thing locally, I think. And for me, the thing that really brought it all together when I realized Vegas is a hockey town, well, read the article and you'll see that. But I kind of have a clever little what passes in my world for a clever little observation about when I knew that Vegas really had gotten into hockey.
Nice. All right. I love the cliffhanger. We will we'll definitely post the link in the comments on our Facebook. Because you know what? We post this, our most active, in case anybody's wondering, listening to this via the podcast, our Facebook page is really active. Or our YouTube channel, we're you talked about that one slot channel. It's like 1/10 of Brian Christopher. I think we're like 1/1,000,000th or something right now. We haven't done a lot to develop YouTube, but that's going to be growing. We're doing more content there. But podcast, Facebook, we will post the link to your Forbes article in all of them.
I think we need a fan club, like the Bomb Squad and the Rudies. I think we need something.
Okay. Well, let's think about it. Maybe we'll
take. I don't know, something.
Yeah.
RFBs.
RFBs, I like that too.
RFB, the Room Food and Beverage, something like that.
Okay. Yeah,
we'll come up with. Need a name for the fan club for the channel. I think that would work.
The Comp Dorks. Or the casino. We'll come up with something. Now, what I also appreciate about this Vegas Golden Knights article is that you got a well-known casino owner to contribute quite a bit to the article. Tell us about who you had.
Yeah, so Derek Stevens owns the D and the Golden Gate with his brother, Greg, and a couple other folks involved in that. But Derek is the guy who's out in public the most. Definitely the most visible. He was really generous of his time and talked to me about it. And he's really passionate about hockey. in general and the Golden Knights in particular. It was really great to talk to him. He's basically everything you would want in a casino owner, just accessible, very humble and very passionate about this community. So it's very, very interesting, I think. And I'm really looking forward to what he's doing with 18 North Fremont, which is where the Las Vegas Club used to be. I don't have any inside knowledge, but I think that's going to be a pretty interesting development. I think people are going to want to see that place when they start building it because it's going to be cool.
Now, there's rumors that it may take the name of one of your books. I shouldn't say it's not taking the name of your book, but your book is obviously named.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that. I've talked to Derek about that a little bit. If it does, that would be really awesome. It would be really gratifying to know that somebody saw something else in that name. It'd be kind of great for Jay to know, or Jay Sarno, just to be sure which Jay I'm talking about. Jay Sarno to know that, I don't know if you'd know it, depends on your view of the afterlife, but just to have an idea this name that he conceived is actually going forward. So that would be really good. I think it's a good name, and I think it could definitely work somewhere.
And the name, of course, is Grandissimo. Anybody that's watching this video, you could see the Grandissimo book cover above your left shoulder.
Yeah, right up there.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep. Great book, by the way. I've read it. I really enjoyed it. So, yeah. So again, Derek is building. Is it gonna be the tallest hotel downtown?
Pretty sure it is. Pretty sure it is. Don't know too much else about it. I know that they've released some of the planning documents and stuff like that, but I don't really know the name, the theme, or anything like that. Just know it's going to be a pretty big casino hotel in downtown, which is going to shake up downtown a little bit, I think.
I've heard they're gonna have 777 rooms, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. I like that.
And you've already seen a lot of the people down there already start to position themselves. Obviously, Golden Nugget is really competitive. They're probably the top property in the market right now as far as room amenities go. But the Plaza's done a lot. The Boyd properties, like California, have Cal's been completely renovated. So I think everybody downtown is kind of sprucing up in preparation for this to happen in a couple years.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about it before, I think on the podcast or in our interviews, but I feel like there's a backlash against the Strip. And actually, it's interesting. We should maybe next week talk about parking fees and how Wynn is taking a step back from it. But there's just to me, like just talking to normal people, both gamblers, but also just friends and stuff that don't gamble, that the Strip, it's like, yeah, it's cool, but man, it's such a ripoff. Or it's so expensive. Whereas downtown, there's some downsides of downtown compared to the Strip, but people universally say like, yeah, it's good value. There's good food. You got a good gamble. Drinks are cheaper. So I think there's a chance that people that love Las Vegas but hate the overpriced nature of the Strip may swing downtown.
Yeah, and ironically, of course, you have to pay to park in downtown, but most casinos validate if you do stuff. So, I mean, that's kind of the funny part is that even though they've had paid parking for years, they're seen as a better value because I think in general the prices are lower. I mean, you can still spend a lot of money, but the prices are lower. The slots aren't quite as good as they used to be. If you look at the numbers and the monthly gaming reports, you can see the slot hold downtown is starting to climb up. Might be that they have fewer people playing video poker and more people playing the penny machines, but the slot hold is definitely not where they're competing. I think it's more in the non-gaming. Other really interesting thing about downtown is last year, for the first time ever, downtown casinos made more from non-gaming than from gaming. The Strip has been doing that for about 20 years, and downtown caught up to them last year. So I think it's more the non-gaming value although the gaming value is there with 3-2 blackjack. I know Derek says it's always 3-2 blackjack, and a lot of other places downtown do too. I think it's not so much the slot value as it is all the other amenities around it.
Very cool. Now, one thing that we're going to be talking about on the Meetup at Sea are different entrepreneurs that really shaped Las Vegas. Guys like Steve Wynn, probably Sheldon Adelson. I know you've got a list. Now, Derek Stevens, I think he's definitely putting his name in that list of kind of the great, well-known guys that left their mark. Is there anybody in particular that he kind of reminds you of, or what? Because to me, he reminds me a little bit, not having spoken with him or anything, but I like the kind of like Benny Binion, I think, where it seems like Derek is really like wants to make things right by the gambler, delivering value. Kind of that he reminds me of Benny Binion. What are your thoughts?
A couple of things. So, like Sheldon Adelson, he came into this from another industry. So it's not like Steve Wynn, where Steve Wynn basically always wanted to work in casinos and was always doing gambling stuff since he was in his 20s. So he came into it maybe a little bit later, but had always loved casinos, but came into it from another business, so had that base. Like Benny Binion, he cares about the customer. I think like Steve Wynn, he's interested in the whole customer experience. This is a guy who added elevators to the D because people were waiting too long for their rooms and getting frustrated. So he literally spent a ton of money, I don't know exactly how much money, and added elevators, because he would wait in that, waiting whatever, elevator lobby 2 and see people getting frustrated. And instead of hiring an outside consulting firm to try to, whoa, why are they upset? Basically people said, we don't, there's not enough elevators. He actually added them. Incredibly expensive for a building that's already open. That says a lot to me, because those elevators are not revenue producing, at least not yet. They don't
yeah, you never know in Vegas.
But yeah, I mean, maybe that's the next thing on the Strip. But basically, that tells me a lot about him, that he's willing to spend all this money just to make something a little nicer than it is. So that's interesting. The other thing, though, kind of my favorite thing about Derek Stevens is that I'd known him for about a year before I found out that he had an MBA.
Huh.
Most people who have an MBA will tell you probably 3 or 4 times within the first minute that they meet you that they have an MBA. At least they'll tell you that again and again and again. Derek, I literally didn't know it for like a year, and then it was only because he was talking to a group of MBA students and mentioned it when I did my MBA work. So it's like, oh wow, he doesn't have to beat you over the head with that. So I think he's a really interesting guy, and I think his customer-centric approach is what makes him so important to watch, because I think it's an alternative. I think you have projects in the Strip that are really capital intensive. You need a ton of money to do that. So you're going to have a lot of people second guessing, a lot of decisions made by committee. What Derek is doing is still, not like he's doing it on the cheap, but because there's less of a corporate structure, it's got more of that individual decision maker, which I think is probably a good thing.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of the story about the elevators, reminds me of Bill Hara, where he was always traveling, trying to find new ideas to make his property better. And he was somewhere in Europe, and he just noticed how fast the elevator was I think it was in France or something. He's like, man, that's fast. So he bought a stopwatch, and he would just go to the top floor and down, he'd time it. And then he used that as the bar, and he went back to Tahoe and was like, we need to get an elevator that's this faster. And then he replaced the elevators and made sure it was the fastest elevator technology in the world at the time. Yeah. So that's about, and to your point, Wynn is, he's always been fanatical about the customer experience. Bill Hara was like that, and that's cool to hear that Derek Stevens has that same kind of mindset.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Well, anything that we didn't touch on that we should from your articles this week?
I think we've covered it all.
Awesome. Well, all right, everybody. We still got spots available for the July 30th meetup at sea. We've got a great group signed up so far. I can't wait, and it sounds like it's going to be the launch of Dr. Dave's YouTube slot channel. So one more reason to come on out.
Or maybe the URComped YouTube slot channel. Who knows?
It would look a lot like yours, just me kind of walking by, looking at it. Yeah, we could have my mom be the star, playing her penny buffalo slots. But
I think what we have to do is we have to find a cat that plays slot machines. So it could be a cat video and a slot video merged into one. I think that would work pretty well.
Oh, that could be our niche. I like it.
We just have to find a casino that's cool with cats on the casino floor, which they may or may not be.
It'll be a service cat. Then they'll have to.
Yeah, I think they tend to frown on that kind of stuff. I don't know why.
Service cats playing slots?
Yeah, I mean, what's a cat ever done to anybody?
As long as they're
Besides,
21, I don't see the problem.
yeah, besides in cat years. I mean, they
Yeah.
do kind of maybe pee on the furniture and scratch stuff, but besides that, they're pretty
They're
clean.
pretty
Clean some
sanitary.
litter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bring some kitty
they're
litter.
pretty clean animals. Yeah, I like this idea.
All right. All right, we're on to something. I'll talk to Royal Caribbean about bringing the cat.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Dave, thank you again, sir.
Oh, thank you.
All right, you have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
You too.